In this week's Memes and Machines, we have an AI special. If you are interested in launching an AI company, we break down all the must-dos and the do-nots. We also break some news in video models. What is the latest? And finally, we go down the conspiracy route. We expose all the scammers and creators on a platform that you all know.
Sit back, grab a cold beverage from the fridge and relax because you're now locked into the sounds of memes and machines.
Memes and Machines, we are back. We got the band back together. Ben's just had his breakfast. I hope it was nice. Chris, welcome back. How are you, fellas?
All right, mate. You?
Good. If you hear like what sounds like someone screaming in my background, I've actually got a, when a fire alarm is running out of battery or needs something replacing. The problem is I've got a very high ceiling and I can't get to it. And I've got ladders out. Like I got to go buy some massive ladders to get to. So for 2 days, it's just been beeping nonstop periodically. So that is me not locking someone up and tying them in my basement. That's just a fire alarm. Just squeals in the background. Anyway, gents, look, I think we've got some fun topics to talk about. We're going to talk about AI today, but I want to start with just some breaking news. Chris, hit us with what's happening in the world of video and AI.
Yeah, so it looks like we've woken up to some new news, and that is that Google has finally launched a version of VO2, at least. It's not the full accessible tool that early access users have been given, but it looks like a light version has essentially been added to YouTube. And this is a massive trend that's going to happen this year that I'm predicting, because Meta Movie is going to come to Instagram first. You're not going to see Meta Movie Gen get launched as a solo product. You're going to be able to see AI avatar versions of your profile pictures, which is going to be one feature inside of Instagram. So essentially, VO2 has done that move. They've created 9x16 B-roll that you're currently able to generate inside of YouTube, and you're not going to be able to do this anywhere else. And it's only available in the shorts format right now. So it's not available in the normal 16:9 YouTube video creations. It has to be in the short. Essentially, if you go to add now in the bottom left-hand corner, if you're a YouTube creator, you'll see VO2 or a version of it is being touted. We're not really sure if it's VO1 or VO2 Lite. No one's really sure, but everyone's definitely sure that it's not the full VO2, because if you add exactly the same prompts to that and then take it over to the normal VO2, you'll get very different output. So it's definitely not the full package. But yeah, it's been launched and it is in the UK. However, if you're listening to this in Europe, sadly, who knows how long you're going to have to wait, but it hasn't been announced there. There's a full list of the countries it is available to, which is most of the world outside of Europe, to be honest, even including Africa and most of Asia and Australia and Canada, absolutely on the list, but no France, Germany, Spain, anyone else in Europe.
Wow, you just went after the Europeans hard there, Chris. Question for you. Is this symbolic of social platforms integrating more and more creator features with the view of owning the full process or owning big chunks of the process?
We talked about this in one of the earliest episodes we recorded together, but my prediction was essentially because ByteDance is such a big company and they produce so many tools outside of TikTok that they're going to be the most in this. However, I did flake on the fact that Meta is massively putting 10 billion plus into AI, and they own Instagram and Facebook, obviously, and WhatsApp. So that's where you'll see those integrations of AI. And then LinkedIn is really big into AI as well. In fact, all of them are. Google, if it still had Google Plus, no doubt they'd be pushing it in their version of social media. But what they do own is things like YouTube, and so they're going to put their AI right there. And this is why all major companies are investing so much into AI, because it will maximize the profit they get from their already existing softwares and social media platforms. If done correctly, it actually could go horribly wrong. Snapchat introduced AI and they didn't even ask their users about it, and there was a massive exodus from Snapchat. Now I've heard that they have pulled this around and actually they're doing some of the best AI now. So good for those guys for like listening to their customers, but it can go horribly wrong as well as horribly right.
You know what I think is really interesting about that is, even the most advanced technology companies in the world, they're built on legacy architecture. You know, it's for the first time in a long time that engineers are thinking differently about how you build products. So, as a brand new startup that hasn't built anything yet, you can build things faster, better, and more scalable at a lower cost, much quicker, right? And in doing that, you kind of look at going, well, that's a playground for entrepreneurship. That's a playground for startups to start to compete. And I know we're going back like over the last couple of weeks, but the sort of the announcement with DeepSeek and that being kind of an innovation. And I know you had Chris, some thoughts around it, like in part, there's fake news in there. A lot of industry giants have come out and said, yeah, that's not the full story. A lot more has been spent on this. But what is undeniable is there's been an advancement in how you approach the technical challenge of processing so much information at any given time, and sort of using less parameters and breaking down tasks into sequences, etc. So there's a
Yep.
real interesting area where now I think for the first time, like European companies are thinking, oh, maybe we can compete. It's always been like America's going to win this AI race, and they probably will. But that was kind of the first glimmer of hope for other startups in the rest of the world, I would say.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, if you took the moralistic side away and realized, DeepSeek's not going to tell you everything because of who built it, it simply won't give you information that it doesn't want to give. And therefore, it's kind of a gated open source intelligence, whereas you'd want a fully accessible one that's not going to have bias. Now, if you take that away and you say, this is an open source technology that if you do trust its output, you can just add to your platform. It means you don't need to be a big technology company to compete anymore. You can add AI DeepSeek almost for free as long as you can integrate it properly into anything you do and advance it. And that's incredible. You mentioned something there that I think I totally agree with, and that is no matter if they lied about the data or the training costs or the chips that they had, their inference intelligence innovations alone are
Mm.
advancing AI. So it doesn't matter, whether they lied about how long or how much or what really, the white paper alone was how to get inference at a much lower cost, and that is going to change AI, regardless of what DeepSeek and everything else comes of it. Now, the craziest thing about this is that there's new AI companies right now that are just built on holding APIs for open source models. Korea is one of the best examples of this, and Korea in DeepSeek integrated, Perplexity and DeepSeek integrated, and I think this is going to happen more and more because Apple Intelligence, even though you think Apple's a leading company, is awful. And they just announced an Alibaba integration for their AI. And also they have a ChatGPT integration. So like Apple is basically saying our intelligent AI is not that great yet, but we will outsource to these other AIs to make your iPhone experience
Which is
better.
It's so anti Steve Jobs' philosophy of owning the full stack and
It
being
really is, but they have
foundation.
to like admit that theirs is not good yet. It's becoming a meme on the internet, mate. I don't know if you've
Oh,
seen any of the
I've
pictures, but
used it.
like
I hate it. I hate it.
it's
I've
a side
downloaded.
by side, like no comparison to the Samsung one. And Samsung's not even, touted in the AI space yet. But if you try to like remove things from a photo, they have this like Photoshop Gen fill. The Apple one gives you this horrible warped version of whatever the image
It
is, and the Samsung one's
pains
almost
me.
like perfect.
As a fanboy, it pains me. I'll just add one point to what you were saying before, Chris, and then I want to kick it to Ben. I thought the DeepSeek narrative was like a masterclass in communication, and I'll tell you why. If
Mm.
you think of every AI company in the world came out with, we spend more, we have bigger data centers, we're getting bigger, billions, billions, billions. How do you compete when everyone's desensitized to hearing these obscene, ridiculous numbers Well, you go against the grain. And they came out and went, you know what? We did this for like next to nothing. And that caught everyone's attention. It's the purple cow philosophy. When everyone goes one way, if you juxtapose that, and then obviously then you've got the big political narratives, the pro-America agenda, the backdrop that kind of amplified that. So it gave them a moment to probably get more traction in just saying, even if they lied, as a comms initiative, it was phenomenal. I would love it to be intentional. We usually like retrofit the story we want, like, oh, it was intentional. I would love that have been to be tactical for me.
I will just add one last point before you, like you say, let's hand over to Ben, because yeah, there's so much to talk about today. But going on the comms thing you just said, right? I don't know if you actually read any of the headlines, but they doubled down on the like no money to train it thing and said he's from a village. So the headlines actually read, a Chinese villager with no experience in AI has wiped $1 trillion off of the US stock market. And that Chinese villager has now been appointed the lead AI of the CCP. So that's the problem, is like, did he come from nothing, or was that his Britain's Got Talent story that the CCP made from the headlines? And the headline, like, you know, we live in a headline society now where that headline will be remembered by everyone and the actual story won't, you know? So that's the thing, is people now think that some random villager in China with no money and through pure innovation of thought managed to outdo all of these Americans, and yet now he's been appointed the lead AI scientist of the whole CCP. So now he is working with the Chinese government. And so DeepSeek, even though it wasn't maybe like, you know, had a backdoor entrance when it was launched, he is now directly working with them against America. So it's now like a fascinating story of the tale. It's almost like James and the Giant Peach, you know, or something where you're set up as like your impossible competitor, your massive overlord that you're never going to beat, and you're the tiny little villager with a slingshot or whatever, and you're going to somehow, you know, topple this giant. It's genuinely crazy.
The hero story, the David and Goliath. Look, all of those like intricacies are beautiful, right? I love it, and you know, yeah. What can you say on that? It's phenomenal. Ben, I wanted to give you a bit of a rundown of YC. So Y Combinator, kind of the origins of the pre-seed incubation accelerator program, and many companies that have become very famous, wealthy, become part of our vernacular, have been born out of Y Combinator. They are the Harvard of accelerators. So very simple program. You go on there, you spend a load of time with them, over 6 to 8 weeks. You have a community of people. They give you a check. They take 10% of your business. And then they support you in perpetuity, and you become part of the YC cohorts. They've released a list like pointed towards their views on AI. And I know we've had conversations in the past about like, you've thought about building a technology business or building a SaaS platform. So I know it's something you're personally interested in. And then I wanted to like hit you with some of their ideas and tell me what you thought. So their number one principle basically says, don't start with AI ideas, meaning avoid like the Chat GPT for X concepts. What do you think of that, and have you gone through that process yourself?
I guess it's, I don't know whether that's a statement to make people to stop relying on AI for, I don't want to say innovation, but I think it's related to what we've discussed months ago around this. It's somewhat related. The gap that I think is going to be increased by people who are original thinkers and innovators, and people that are just using AI to like think for themselves. And it's like, then how are you? I mean, I think people are going to get lazy in trying to like thinking AI can just whip up business ideas just on its own without the context of someone that's been doing it for 10 years just in an industry. The data isn't built on an expert's knowledge with nuance understanding. And so I don't know whether it's kind of related to that, in that, like, you know, you use your experience and knowledge and understanding of the market to, like, you know, because I think AI models are they're good at, like, picking out problems, but sometimes it just doesn't make sense to solve that problem. And I feel like it doesn't have the context to understand why that it doesn't make sense to solve that problem, as to someone that just a human, right? We're nearly at that point, and you could probably reprompt and get it to give you the same answer as to why it doesn't make sense. But I just feel like it's trying to say to people, look, like, find real problems in real life first, and then use AI to iterate on them, rather than the opposite. I don't know whether, that's just my 2 cents on that statement, and, like, taking it a bit further to what they're, I guess, trying to tell people.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and it's probably 2 points just to add there. I think it's AI is going to be ubiquitous. Like, saying I'm building an AI company is just like saying I'm building a company now, or it certainly should be. So I think it's like, don't get caught up. I think the second thing as well, and we've discussed this a lot, you know, week by week, there are these massive leaps forwards, and it seems cliche to say the rate of change is accelerating, and it kind of is. But God, we are so desensitized to these, like, what would be decade-long leaps in technology and advancement. So if you are purely predicated on, like, just AI, you're going to be out of date quite quickly, right? There are some people that can compete in that space, but for the vast majority of people, we should just be trying to create better services. And if AI can contribute to that, then go all in. Like, that's the point, isn't it? It's like, really, we just need to be creating value. And there's just so much white space to take on. The second point on this list, Chris, I'd love to get your thoughts on this. And the headline is "Go deep, not wide. Depth is your moat." And this really is about, I suppose, domain authority, and Ben alluded to that there. It's kind of your advantage over, like, general models and over most people is truly understanding a sector, a problem, some nuance. Like, Ben, as a content creator, will know things that 99% of the world can't empathize with because they're not a practitioner. And I think that's the point it's kind of making there. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely agree with it, because the large language models we've already got are very good at the wide stuff, and it's the finely tuned version of it that's going to be the real problem solving from here. So, like, imagining adding a wrapper onto ChatGPT that solves your recruitment issues in a certain industry in Dubai. That's the, like, finely tuned version of it. And that's going to be very, very useful to someone that can't finely tune ChatGPT to do that ordinarily, because as we just alluded to with the business ideas, essentially ChatGPT without pre-context is going to give you Wikipedia-style answers, which is not a good business model. And that's why humans selecting the business model is the way to do it. However, I would argue, using Perplexity in order to get market research about where product market fit is prior to the business model idea is probably the better way to go around things. So instead of saying, what business should I open? You should say, where is there gaps in the market in this niche? So, like, say Instagram car creators, what are their viral trends and stuff? So at least you're not shooting in the dark or starting from nowhere, because that's a very likely to fail business model if you're not doing AI for research. But yeah, I agree with what Ben said as well. I think definitely don't use it just to give you generic ideas, because medium to long term, that's not even your passion, right? Like, the reason humans choose their passion is because they know they need to do it long term. And if Wikipedia style ChatGPT gives you a business model, you ain't going to be committing to that because it's not your idea. So, like, that's another reason not to use the ideas.
Just it's a side point, but I guess it's relevant to what we talk about. Like, I've was at an event last night around influencer marketing, etc., and discussing some of the problems, and all very generic. And I've got this. I had this question. I didn't get to ask it, but my question is, I'm digressing here, but it's around the point of nuanced knowledge from me. How do you my question is, how do you measure trust in an influencer? How do you measure trust? Like, the industry doesn't have an answer to this, and they go, yeah, well, you just look at comments, sentiment, da 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 da. And so, and I've got this nuanced positioning, where as a creator, where there are let's say 50 creators in my niche, all above 100,000, all have a community, all get engagement. They are all trusted very differently by their audience and also by the peers around them. How do you measure that? And this, I know that I'm digressing here, but this is like a point of like, that is a problem that I know people need to be solved in, because it then means that brands actually choose the creators to work with that not only have good influence, but are actually trusted and respected by everybody around them to the right brand fit. But how do you solve that problem? And I've spoken to people about this on brand side, and they've fucking never even heard of my proposition, like why that's a problem. It's when you know celebrities are in the public domain. When a celebrity, you know their past, you know the good ones and the bad ones. They all have influence, they all have fans, and brands choose not to work with some celebrities because of what they've done in the past and how they operate. There is the same thing is happening in influencer space. And again, this goes back to this sort of like, only me being an influencer and creator knows that is a thing. It's a very, very nuanced thing. And everyone that I speak to that's brand side, that is an influencer marketer, that apparently is an expert, has never fucking heard that sort of this thing that I'm putting forward as a problem that needs to be solved. And it's like, that's kind of where I'm always thinking, like, how am I really leaning into like my unfair advantage, my knowledge and expertise, my nuance of doing the thing that I do to then solve problems like for other people where that in the industry that's related to me, if that makes sense.
Well, look, you are 100% spot on, and it is directly linked to understanding your domain and going very narrow. One of the point I'll probably add to that, I'm speaking to a lot of engineers right now, and most engineers and developers, they go through a process of market research. They randomly build technology, then they go speak to people. And for me, it feels actually a very flawed way of going about building products, because one, business is difficult. So, you build something, you don't really care about it. You're probably not going to respond well at the difficult times, the hardships. You're not going to put the level of commitment required to make it work. And then the second thing when you go alongside that is you just don't know. You can speak to people, but until you've been in the trenches, it's a lived experience.
Yeah.
Like your point on trust there, Ben, is like, you come from a place of going, like, to answer your question, I think there's one way to know trust, like to truly, and it's not measurable, it's difficult, is like, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Very famous saying, right? The incentive being, there are certain people that don't need to promote things, and there are certain people that do for a living, right? And that creates an inherent conflict of interest just there. And to your point, though, but that's the entire economy. So it's like, is it a flawed economy paying people to promote shit? I don't know. Is there a better economy like, shared ownership? I own a piece of a business. Your incentive's there, but you must care about it to own a piece of it. They're big sort of questions, but I think the idea of saying, like, if you want to start a business, don't just pick a lane that you know nothing about. You should only pick a lane you either really are deeply passionate about or you have tons of experience. Like, I think that's...
Mate, the whole industry is just full of people picking a lane that they've got no idea about. And Chris, you'll be able to comment on this, because this is every week, obviously I get like tons of inbounds from AI tools, and I'm like, why are you building this? Like, we've already got 50 of them. And do you know what it is? It's someone that doesn't understand the market, probably has good business experience, has maybe started a few companies and gone, I need to build some AI. I need to build something AI. All content creator, or like that does it, like, let's build a front end and put a back, like DeepSeek.
I'll tell you the most reason it is because they've seen it working for someone else and they want to clone it. And they either want to wrapper it or adapt it somewhere else. You know, like when you saw the Instagram thing where it's like make a Harry Potter selfie take off, someone launched a Reddit tool to do exactly the same thing just in Reddit. You know, it's basically cloning it and then repurposing it to another audience. And this happens a lot in the AI space because of how easy it is to make these tools. My co-host just got approached by as a sponsored thing. He's putting it out right now on LinkedIn, his first sponsor post. It's a big sponsor as the sponsor of the podcast and stuff, right? The entirety of the LinkedIn audience that they're using for influencer marketing is using pods. Every single one of them is using faked engagement, and they're really happy with this and measuring us against it. Now, this fake engagement is exactly what.
How do you know that?
100%, mate, because they got as many comments as they've got likes. It's like 500 comments, 500 likes. They're all generic sentiment analysis positive. Oh, great post. No reference to the post. Great content, as always, at name. That's clearly Lempod posts, right? I even know how to set it up, and I could show. And this is the conversation we had this morning. I said to we're about to get pitched against all of these podders. Now we can do one of two things, because this happened with Synthesia recently. We can go and burst their bubble and tell them that 99% of the people they're using right now are scammers, and that will alienate us potentially. Or we could just play neutral and hope that our engagement gets close to the podders and that they don't drop us. That's the easier way to play it.
Just a quick one on that, Chris. Like, you say, like,
everyone's fake engaging posts, because brand partnership, when you attach this as a LinkedIn post, it kills it. Right. Engagement just dies off of a cliff. And everything where you do this in official brand partnership in a social media platform kills it dead. Ben will tell you, if this is an ad post or a sponsored post, it's not a regular content. It's going to get 10% of the engagement that a regular post does, because you're having to sell someone else's shit.
Just very quick question on that though. You say, and this is my point. I agree. It's a scam, and people are engagement baiting and using pods, etc. That's very common.
And what happens is, sorry.
Let me just ask a question, dude. I can see you passionate.
I got lag. Sorry, I got lag. I didn't hear you talking. Sorry.
Let me get the question out. Yeah, I'm the same. It's bad connection on my end. So one of the things I ask is, like, if you're a brand, if they are real people engaging, it's manipulating the engagement, but the reach is fundamentally what you want. You want people to see the message that's being communicated. It's not authentic, it's not real, it's engineered. But more people will see it in feed as a consequence of that activity. To me, it's
not necessarily. That's not actually what happens.
Let me finish the train of thought a second, though. But it's not too dissimilar to working with a creator and boosting through paid. Obviously, you would have a degree of accuracy over audiences you were targeting, etc. But what it is doing is taking an organic, like, there's a collective view that this is effective, it works, and it's boosting it. So I don't agree with it. I'm just playing devil's advocate of going, if you're the brand, is there a world where there's still value? And is it like, I think it's manipulative, I don't think it's personally a scam? Does that make sense? That would just be my position.
But I think they would you'd like to hope that they would make look at a common sentiment as well, because this is
but that's not enough, Ben, because the common sentiment is the thing you can hack. You can say be entirely positive, and
then what I'll say, Chris, is fuck that brand. Why if they're not gonna do their due diligence, and also
they're just unaware. Mostly these internal influencer managers, they don't have any clue, and often they'll go to people like Social Chain or someone who's an influencer marketing agency in order to guarantee that the influencers chosen are the right ones and stuff.
Well, this goes back to the point that I made about trust. This is exactly what the issue that I have raised to multiple people around. Look. Influencer A has there's a few people on TikTok. I'm not going to say who they are, but they fall into the TikTok guru category, and I cannot stand them because they prey on the people that don't know what they don't know, and all of their comments are filled with just gaslighters. Oh, great insights, great post. Oh my God, thank you so much for helping. And I'm sat there thinking, this person is such a bullshitter. Every like post is just about them shilling their like their digital products, their course, and the comments are just filled with people that are just I'm using this as an example when I go to influencer people and say, look, if you don't know the niche and you don't understand the platform, you'll go to this person's profile and think they're a very really respected, highly engaged individual, but actually like all of their like audience, they're kind of just, I don't think they're your right audience, because they're just sort of just these people that are like
100%.
like they're gaslighting the creator without actually really listening and thinking about what they're saying, because they don't know what they don't know. But how do you know that? I guess like you said, as the people who are at the desks at HubSpot, how are they supposed to know that if they're not in the trenches?
They need a tool, mate. They need a tool, because
I need to build that tool.
Yeah, exactly. I think we're launching a business model, literally talking, like, I think seriously, like, if we could invent a tool, and I could do it like individually, manually right now. I could go to any LinkedIn profile and tell you, oh, that looks out of the ordinary. There shouldn't be as many comments as they get, or so generic. Like, and sentiment analysis tools will just get you, oh, it looks really positive, because you're going to get the generic, broad, just data dump thing. But whereas post by post, you can tell as an expert, like you're an expert at TikTok, you see the fake engagement. I'm an expert at LinkedIn. I can spot the signs, right? Like I know fully well when someone is using pods and how they're using it, even what pods they're using, like, because it's the same people in the same order with the same comments every single time. And Ollie, just, the reason I'm so passionate about this, mate.
You hate, we can tell, mate. You hate, you absolutely hate it.
I've been battling uphill against these scammers, and I'm going to call it scamming because it is pulling the wool over the client's eyes. They think that they're getting something. Now, I always tell clients, you need attribution. These guys need to have a link whereby you can track, oh, this is the thing that came from this post. Because otherwise, if it's just brand awareness activities, everything I could buy for $5 from India tomorrow. And I'm not willing to do it, but these are what others are doing.
Yeah, and by the way, mate, I 100% agree with you. I'm just trying to, I suppose, frame balance of going, it's still not nil and void value to the brand. In that transaction, they can still get value, but I think as a industry and on a creator, I think you're flawed. I think you're scamming, you're manipulating, you're not saying what's actually happening. What I will say is, just to go back to, is there a business? We're talking about kind of AI businesses. This is the domain knowledge that we're talking about, where people on the outside would never know. You have to be a practitioner to understand the nuance of that. And I'll go back 8 years. 8 years ago, when I was at Social Chain, we created a tool called Likewise, very rudimentary. So imagine the narrative at the time. People were using applications to buy comments and likes. You can do that today, but these were like fully fake. And they're much more sophisticated today. But back then, you would get like 1,000 likes instantly, or you'd get 1,000 follows instantly. So our view as practitioners, we knew what fake engagement like. All we had to do was plot on a grid when engagement hit. And if it all happened at once, there was a natural velocity curve of interest on an algorithm or a piece of content. And then if there was an unnatural anomaly, we could say with certainty that someone has faked engagement. We came out, and Steve put this into the world, like it was just after Cannes. We came out and said, influencer marketing is a scam. 25% of the entire industry is manipulating fraud. The industry is worth X billion today. That means that 1.5 billion is being wasted to influencer fraud, and it's only going to get worse. And we came out with that. The tool wasn't amazing. It was quite rudimentary, because we looked at one identifier. And at the end of that process, like, we had 4,000 brands get in touch with us from one post saying, applaud, I'm glad you said this. And that was just because, and then loads of people that built tools like it went, you said you're a world first, and we have this feature in our tool. And I'm like, but that's the problem. You're a developer. You don't know this is the thing that the industry cares about. You've buried it in a feature list of 12 other things. You might do the same thing, but we're the only people that know how to communicate it as practitioners.
Yeah, because you talk to the brands.
It's very symbolic. That was a lesson 7 years ago. I think it's just as true.
Yeah, sorry,
And
mate.
you kind of
It's the
know
lag.
that you have like the unique insight of knowing brands, what's the problem, knowing that there's a financial issue, but also knowing social media. Like you kind of have to know that that was happening. You have to be in the bubble, right?
And to bring this all
Yeah, I think
back
it's
to
symbolic
AI,
of all
right?
the conversation.
Like, think about what AI is incredibly good at. It's spotting tiny little inferences in data. You know, when you're looking at a lung scan and it's looking for cancer, it's looking for things that humans wouldn't see as data patterns and clusters. So actually, AI is ironically going to be the thing that both fakes engagement and the best thing to spot fake engagement. You know, so maybe
Yes.
that's our tool and business model is we say, look, this is the standard, you know, like if you do anything official, like if you trade Pokemon cards or collect football cards or American football cards, there's these grading companies and they'll say, this is a PSA 10, you know, or something like this. This is the
Mm,
company that grades it and say, look, according to the standards that we know of the official company that prints this, that's graded a 10 out of 10. And this is a fake. And this is like, you know, whatever. And you should be able to do that with social media profiles. Ironically, I saw one actually working already for like, did you see that? The viral LinkedIn, you drag and drop a LinkedIn profile into this thing and it will rip on you. It will
Yeah, I've seen it.
yeah. So like it's obviously analyzing the posts and the bio and stuff. All it needs to do now is just look through the post engagement and say this person's likely a scammer or a fraud or like engaged baiting or whatever it is. Like that would be brilliant.
that's
And it would be
that's it.
viral. You could say brands drop in your influencers to see how many of them bought their audience and stuff like that. It would go
Yeah.
sensational.
Yeah, you pick a like headline, like a famous figure that's manipulating their engagement, and suddenly then that acts as the catalyst for everyone sort of testing and playing. Yeah, that's a cool idea.
What else is on the Y Combinator list? I feel like we've deviated
Oh yeah,
away
we
from that.
deviated from that script a
I
bit.
think you got
don't we?
two. You got two left or three left.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hit you with like a few, and I'll get your takes because I'm conscious
Yeah.
of time.
Then we'll
Number
wrap up,
3
yeah.
was think in unfair advantages. That's one. And number 4 was look for signals. So signals can be like things that take hours but should take minutes. Industries that are very analog, you know, they still operate like it's 1995. I think unfair advantages and kind of signals for interest. What do you think when you're thinking in the context of marketing? Like, what's the opportunity now?
What do you mean? The opportunity for what?
For like businesses, if you go, what are the signals in our industry that are like super analog? Because what
The
we just
opportunity.
described, the idea there is like, sorry, mate, there's lag.
Well, I say the opportunities are for the people who have an unfair advantage in terms of their knowledge and experience in industries that aren't sexy, are boring, are hidden away in the corners of the world, but generate serious cash. Because those are the people that will have the nuanced knowledge to understand where AI can be implemented. And barely anybody will touch those because they won't be people that don't, because they're not front and center to the people that don't know anything about those things. You know, people are jumping into the content creation ecosystem with AI tools because it's front and center, it's sexy, it's like, oh yeah, creator ecosystem is growing or growing. But you know, what about like, you know, just I guess AI tools that can be implemented in systems, you know, in just the boring like manufacturing operations, you know, just the boring shit that is only going to be done by people that have experience in those industries. I think that's where
You
the
just
real money
nailed
is to
it,
be
Ben.
made.
I tell you why. Think about what all the video platforms are doing. They're engineers that didn't really get content creation, and now they're getting Quentin Tarantino on the board. They're getting James Cameron on the board because these are the guys that are going to steer it into the new wave of
Mm,
all news. So, like, they need someone like you on the board, you know, to tell them this is what TikTok content and YouTube content creators need as the next workflow in AI because they're engineers, as Ollie said, you know, they're not market people. They don't know and talk to the people that actually are going to be the users. You've got a huge community of the users that they need and want. And that's where they
yeah.
need someone like you on the board.
Yeah, it's actually, you just say that, Chris. It's one of the next one. It says partner with industry insiders early. Basically people that have like
That's it.
authority in a
Yeah.
sector,
Well, that's
bring them
That's
in.
what
It's
it.
basically,
the The advice that I give to a lot of my audience, because a lot of them ask me, what niche should they start in, or like, you know, what they say, what niche would you recommend starting in? And honestly, the most obvious answer is not just necessarily on whatever you're passionate about, whatever you're passionate about with AI, and based off of your experience within your corporate job or within school or college or university, anything that you're passionate about with AI that is, I guess, digital to some degree, right? Let's just pretend that, you know, if you play football on a Saturday, you're not, well, actually you could figure out how AI technology could be implemented in professional football. Fuck knows. You know, there's anything AI, and start making content on that. And if you're niche and you're not sexy, you'll be one of very, very few creators that's specializing in AI within that, you know, like, I don't know, building an AI tool for gardeners to help them manage their garden by it just making suggestions, like you've got an app that, like, you can, I've seen those apps where you can, like, take a photo of your plant, it tells you what plant it is, and like then it then tells you what to, like, give it, like, just super little nuance, like, tools like that for people, like. And I just think that, and then you'll just discover, like, if you're creating content on your niche but with AI applied, it will then just force you to research, it will force you to like see what's happening. You'll then be considered a leader, or you'll be considered someone who knows what they're talking about in terms of AI within that niche, and then people will just bring problems to you and bring things to you, and then you'll get opportunities, and then you'll win. Sounds very simple when I put it like that, but you kind of, I guess, to make that an easier strategy for success, you kind of have, your passion kind of maybe does have to be a nuanced interest. That would a nuanced digital interest, let's say, or even a nuanced interest that is real world but has some digital application to it.
It's funny you say that. The kind of conclusive point is the good news. Previously too small, too niche markets are now viable for businesses.
Yes,
exactly
yes.
what you're describing. It was probably hard to go after something so particular, like these kind of niche passions. But now, you know,
yeah, because the reason why you couldn't do that is because you'd have to create capital. If you're building a digital app or a web app, you'd have to have capital. Building an app is expensive. You're not going to be able to raise capital because the niche is too small. You know, you need to have, like, obvious, you know, there's no. But now people can just build an app in their bedroom now on using Cursor. Like, it's very much possible. Like, and so now you don't have to spend 15 grand to get someone to develop you an iOS app or a web application. You can build a very, very good MVP web app to solve a problem for a small niche and get some data there, and then iterate on it, and that's just never been really realistic for the normal, just everyday person.
I'll give you two really
100%.
examples on the sports niche you just gave as we close out, because football, you mentioned there, Ben, if that's your passion, right? Just give that as the topic there.
Yeah.
I know two great examples of AI companies that have niched down on football that you'd never expect. One was made by Ollie's old company, Flight Studio, where they made a podcast for Man United using basically, like, you know, like live feed stuff, and just made a podcast that they didn't have before. And it's very popular and it's working really well. The other one is Liverpool employed an AI company to train on corner kicks. Literally, they just wanted to know what's the most likely place for our players to stand to make the most goals. And they paid millions of dollars in order to solve a corner kick thing, because that could potentially get them more points in the league. And so they're two really specific use cases, you know, talking about the wrapper on top of the data you can build and whatever. You'd never have thought of them. But if you love football and you want to involve AI, they're two company examples that worked, and, like, you could solve anything. You know, podcast is one thing, corner kicks is totally random and different. It could be anything else involved in football, though.
You lost me when you said Liverpool, but
do you know what? I actually just had a flashback to when Liverpool launched their crypto sticker things.
Yes,
you know,
they've done stuff in Web3 as well. They've done
launched
loads of stuff.
They launched those crypto
scammers. That's why scouts, they're scamming you. They're scamming you.
They launched those
NFT
crypto. I haven't actually heard of them since. They launched those that, like, They launched the they were NFTs. Sorry, they launched the team at the NFTs.
Yeah, that's what it
They were
was.
NFTs.
Exploiting fans. Very quickly,
Yeah.
wrap on that point. So it goes beyond creating a business. It actually, I think about it from a marketing context. So one of the companies that I'm involved with called System 7 basically does lots of stuff in AI, largely around marketing and sales. And to mess around on Valentine's Day, I was talking at the weekend with the founder.
Are they
Nick,
the ad
and said,
scanners? Are they the ones that scan ads for sentiment and stuff?
no,
Or is
no,
that System
nothing.
1? Sorry.
System.
No, this is Ollie plugging his company.
Ah,
this is
right.
me-
Yeah, right.
me plugging my company. But we were talking at the weekend, and I said, like, we need to get a bit more creative of giving value to people. And data capture, I went, think broadly what's happening next week. I said, Valentine's Day. I was like, oh, it'd be cool if we had like a very simple date planner. That's probably not hard to build. Within 2.5 hours, he built a web application that you just put in your location. It'll give you date ideas and
That's wild.
recommendations. And that was 2.5 hours on
That's
replay or
wild.
cursor, one of the two he used. But the point being is, like, as a marketeer, these bolt-ons, that's not a lot of energy to add in a data capture layer to a project or a campaign. And for you, Ben, as a creator, like, imagine you go on that same journey, right? You can start offering these extra ideas to support that exponentially increase the value of an initiative that you do as someone that understands the tech.
Well, I saw somebody
That's big.
make a comment on this the other day, and that like we've got to a point where actually some of the highest value people are the ones that who are going to be able to use no code to basically whip up applications in. So not only you have a meeting around a product or a service, it's just you've got someone that could literally build that within the meeting and go, yep, here's our MVP. Should we put it to market?
Yeah.
One person I would recommend following on X is a guy called Riley Brown. I've known him for a while. He's big on TikTok, but he didn't know how to code 6 months ago. He still does. He says he's never written a line of code. He calls it vibe coding, where basically you just sit there and tell the AI to basically do what you want, and it creates an app. And I don't know what he's smoking, but he's just like absolutely farming out videos on him just building stuff. And he, like I said, he uses Cursor. He's built like this thing called Yap Threads, where it's like he's building apps to solve problems for himself as a creator. And this is the smart thing to do, which is why I'm looking into it as well. Is like, what can I build for myself that solves a problem in my job? Because and
That's
then
the way to do it.
because I can actually do that now. I can build the app myself. It is very, very possible. From
The
what
other
I'm
way for you
reading
to do
on
it,
X,
Ben, is to literally poll your audience and say, what problem can I solve for you guys on mass? Because you've already got an audience. And that's the big, full circle again. Engineers were previously the ones that could do development. They didn't know the market. They're not us. We're the community and an audience. Now we, the community members, the no coders, can solve things like their problems and create lead magnets and white papers and all sorts at scale.
You don't need engineers. Engineers are going to lose their jobs because
Cursor is incredible, by the way.
Yeah.
That's way better if you guys are like listening to this and you want to start doing this. Instead of ChatGPT or even Anthropic's Claude, go to Cursor because it's built for code. So it's like, if you want to get code out, Cursor is probably your best bet right now.
Because the one of the points I also seen on X, and these people say it might be Riley or someone else, in that we're moving to a world where these big SaaS companies that are public, let's say Adobe, for example, why would I use Adobe? I could just build my own editing app. Like this is what we're moving to. Anyone
that's software, it's like
I
could build my own pipe drive. I could build my own CRM. I build my own email marketing platform. I could build everything. I
guess like ConvertKit or something. ConvertKit is very simple, and like I could probably just build that myself. Well, I couldn't build that myself, but there are going to be lots of people who now can build that themselves, and we'll go, and we'll sell it at cheaper. There's going to be so much more competition for all of the SaaS, and like I said, people who have audiences will be able to it's so much more accessible for them to either do it themselves or invest into somebody to just say, hey, look, like, do you want to partner with me? And we'll just build this thing that solves a problem for,
this is a topic for a
audience.
Future episode, but you've just got me thinking of the best analogy. This is the music. This is what happened to music. music completely lost its value and everyone subscribed to services and no one buys music, and like it used to
Like
be-
CDs, do you mean?
yeah.
Like,
When I was young, I spent 17 quid on a Bumfunk MC album. I'd only wanted to listen to one single on the album. That was my whole month's pocket money, you know, like saving up for this one CD. And now music is so accessible that no one values it or even buys it. They rip it off and stuff. And that's going to happen to software. That exact same thing where we've paid thousands of dollars for software is going to be like, oh, I'll just release it for free. Why? Because it's a white magnet and I can sell all you other things. You know, like I could just build a version of, like you said, like MailChimp, and then give it to my audience for free in order to sell them courses or other things that have more value than the software itself. Software might trend to zero, especially when AI is just making software on the fly. You know, it's not even humans that are having to build business models. It's like open source, just creating a free email marketing platform. Someone will do that soon.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on, and the music analogy is like it came out of nowhere because of an advancement in interconnectivity, the internet. You know, the ability to torrent was kind of the start of the end, right? To digitize things. You're seeing the same dynamics in software, the thing that disrupted all the other things. So yeah, it's super interesting. But gents, look,
people are just gonna. We're gonna move. Sorry, we're just gonna move towards open source world. I reckon, where, like you said, Chris, like someone will build an email provider and they'll just open source it, and everyone can just download it to their PC and just
pretty
run
much
it
it's going to be
run it locally.
Pirate Bay for AI software. Yeah. That's exactly what it's going to be.
And
it's
then
going to be
going to be a
rapid
problem.
file sharing amongst peers. But actually, that's going to advance everyone on Earth. So think about that as the positive, you know? Like,
Oh, I think it from a positive as a consumer. I'm not going to have to pay for subscriptions all the bloody time.
And like,
listen,
you know, DeepSeek
listen,
is exactly
Mr.
that.
Dark
DeepSeek
Web, he
is just
comes out.
When Nvidia released that like $4,000 little mini PC, I'm gonna get one of those.
Oh man,
100%.
literally, that's what I was gonna say. Like, because once you've bought that, that's your investment. You run DeepSeek locally, and you never pay for cloud computer costs, and it's all local to you.
Yeah, mate.
Like,
honestly, I'll be running the web.
Have we just created the modern day Napster?
That's it. Napster meets Pirate Bay meets AI software. That's exactly what's going to happen. That's the music analogy right there. And who's going to be the torrenting site though? Who's going to be the Napster?
Probably you, Chris.
I'm not creating that. I don't want to be the downfall of all major software. They earn way too much money and they'll come headhunting for me. I don't want to be the guy who's on the revolution.
Mate, you'll be dead, mate. You'll be on the hit list.
Suspicious activity happening in Cheshire. Uh-oh.
Dirty politician goes missing.
We'll champion the conspiracy theories. We'll start showing up with tinfoil hats and, long live Chris. Right, Jen, it's been a fun chat, and sorry about my connection. It's probably made it difficult, but I'll see you next time.
Sweet.
Cheers, guys. Cool.